Cool. So yeah, been a week now. Did you have a good week?
Yes, I went to Vegas over the weekend and was there for a real estate conference. It's called One Rental at a Time. I've probably been associated with that group maybe 4 or 5 years at least by now. And the same people tend to go to this meetup. So it's great to see a lot of the same people. We're interacting in Skool and YouTube and Instagram and all that throughout the year. So it's always fun to see them in person, catch up what they're doing, what they're
Yeah.
working on.
Because what's the main guy with that one? I've seen some of his podcasts.
Michael Zuber.
Yeah, he's good. He's a sharp guy. He's kind of very realistic, no extra flashy lifestyle guru stuff. More like just simple way to build wealth, buying one rental at a time. Kind of the premise is what it seems like. So
Right. It's not get rich fast, it's get rich for sure. So if you slow, steady wins the race, right?
yeah, yeah. And the most recent one I watched of his was with Ryan Pineda.
Yeah.
And one thing I did notice was he had this really kind of big shot job almost, where he's making like $500,000 a year or something. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good leverage to go buy some rentals, especially back then when he was doing it. So it kind of speaks to the strategy of having a W-2 and then using that
Well,
going
yeah,
to.
sometimes that can be harder because what I see with a lot of people is, because I used to work at Amazon and if you're director level, geez, in today's world, they're 750, maybe higher total compensation between salary and RSUs, but they live like they make that much, right? So they have a multi-million-dollar house. They have nice cars. Their kids go to private school. Their monthly operating expense is some crazy number, probably 30, 40,000, something like that, right? So yes, could you do a lot with that? Yes, if you are living below your means, right? And so when I'm working with people, like before you even start in investing, it's like, first, why do you want to do this? What's that your goal to come out of it? And then first start with like lowering your costs and increase your income and save money. Because uh, y- if you can do that, then you can actually invest.
Yeah. That actually leads me to the first topic I wanted to bring up here. So, I don't know if you saw this last month, there was 40,000 foreclosures that were initiated, which is up 30% from this time last year. So I'm curious what your take is on why that's happening and how we can change that as a business owner, like how we can use that to, move forward, and then what people can do if, they're, because that's kind of like the lower middle class. I don't think it's as much touching the upper middle class or, obviously the high net worth individuals, but people that are getting pressed, they're not making a whole bunch of money and they're already maybe spending too much. Do you think this is like an inflation issue? Do you think this is just a personal responsibility? You need to stop buying fast food issue? What direction do you go with this?
I think it's an accumulation of events. First, let's talk about the numbers. I think those numbers, when you talk about percentages, they seem pretty alarming.
Hmm.
But I think if you were to look at total count and look at those historical, so what are they versus like 2008? It's still probably like way low relative. But should we be looking at them? Yes, because we want to see the trends. Because if it starts really picking up, that becomes more an issue, right? So now, how did people get here? I think what's happening is we're having to unwind people's behaviors from COVID world.
Hmm.
So if you look at the COVID world, people got used to, was quite a bit of free money out there, right? Whether you had EIDL, PPP loans, government money, forbearance, whatever,
Yeah.
they had a lot of that going on, right? Then people started working remotely, right? And then people started spending money differently. For example, you brought it up. Should we eat out less? It's not necessarily that they're eating out a lot. It's just that they are, I think, ordering a lot of it in. There's people
Oh,
that
dude.
don't have
Yeah.
very much money
DoorDash.
getting Uber Eats all the time, right? So a lot of this is the economic, how people are spending their money. Now, with that, the economy has been changing, right? And so and I would say, every job is potentially replaceable in the next couple of years with this AI stuff. So some more quicker than others. So you have bad spending habits, right? You have corporations forcing people to come back into the office. So now
Hmm.
people need to move from lower cost in theory to higher cost. And then you got some people that are losing jobs. For example, Amazon, I think, laid off another 16 to 20,000, something like that. Of those, like 2,000 were in Seattle. These are like high paying jobs that are people are losing. So when you roll all that together, it's just a function of how much liquidity they got, right? So if they've been saving their money, they're going to be fine. They can go get the other job. They can lower the cost, and they'll come back. If they are already strapped with high credit card debt, which I don't know the number. But I think it's over $1 trillion, some massive number.
Oh, I
Um,
think it's like quite a bit more than that. I think it's like some reason I'm thinking like 36 trillion. Is that crazy?
that's the total U.S. debt.
Oh, that's US total debt.
But in terms of like consumer credit,
Yeah.
I want to say that's like over $1 trillion. But I think that's the same time. People have just kind of they've been getting credit cards, they've been living above their means, and now people are getting caught that don't have the liquidity and haven't been saving.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's also kind of a delayed statistic because when the foreclosure starts, that's because of missed payments that happened like 6 months ago.
Right.
So I think now is kind of when it's coming to fruition, a lot of this effects of the last few years, which will be interesting to see how, people talk about like the K-shaped economy where, the productivity and the growth keeps going this way, but people's, living expenses and everything, they kind of go away from each other. But
That's
I mean,
interesting. I have a
yeah.
different opinion of the K shape because the K shape, from what I understand, is that there's two types of people. The people that have the money are doing really well, and then the
Yeah,
people who are middle class and below, they're struggling and going down.
right.
That's what I thought the K shape economy.
That's what I tried to say. I don't know. I probably just butchered that a little bit, but that's what I was trying to convey there. It turns into the have yachts and the have nots.
Did you say have yachts and have nots?
Yeah,
That's the first time I've ever heard of it. I love it.
the have yachts and have nots. Which one do you want to be?
I'm gonna write that down. That's that way. Ink it, think it is my thing. Have yachts.
Yeah, use it as much as you want. Yeah, I just looked it up. 1.277 trillion in credit card debt.
Yeah, and I think that's the highest ever, right? So basically, we're in uncertain times with AI and just the general economy. So the propensity to lose a job versus like a couple of years ago is much higher, and there's a lot of people straddled with credit card debt. So it just takes one event to happen, and then it snowballs out of control.
Yeah, I think the first two stupid debts people should look to get rid of would be credit card debt and then car payments. It seems like those two things are such a huge chunk of people's budget that
Mhm.
does not have to be. Because if you make more than you spend, there's no reason you need to be paying interest on what you spent last month. But it's
Right.
just like, yeah. All right, next thing. Let's see here. Oh yeah,
One thing
kind of
about
just to touch real quick on the AI thing. Are you utilizing any AI in your business? There's one going around right now that's called Claude and it's
yeah.
supposed to be something you set up on your computer, and it will answer text messages and send emails, and it seems a little bit more like actually like having an employee. Have you heard of this?
Yes, and I'm in a mastermind group that is more, there's a minimum net worth to get in. So there's a lot of business owners and they're trying to figure out how to apply it to their business. And then specifically my real estate agent business, like how can we start implementing that? We're just doing the lowest levels stuff right now, right? We get some sort of issue comes in, we're running it through AI. Like we'll take a contract, throw it through AI. Hey, is there anything in here that I should be alarmed about? A home inspection, we can throw it in there, or how to respond on a negotiation or something like that. That's like the lowest level. These
Mhm.
cloud bots, which I've seen earlier this week on Monday, I've seen what some people are building, and I'm like, holy smokes, man! Because they can start recording all your conversations. They put it into the CRM. They then calendarize with just a couple click of the buttons. I'm like, holy smokes, this is like game changing type stuff to where it's basically going to focus, and specifically in the agent industry, is
Mhm.
that most of that back office stuff can be handled by it. And then it's just a matter of agents talking to more people, helping them solve their problems. And then all the rest of the stuff can be handled by AI. I think as an agent, my goal here is to max as much money as possible in 5 years because it could be gone in 5 years or less. It's kind of how I'm looking at it. So,
Being an
I'm
agent,
yeah,
really?
yeah,
Because the whole real estate idea, people are going to need a place to live. It's just a matter of if you're going to be a value to the market by showing people the options.
right. Yeah. I mean, it is a massive transaction, and I think people will still want that. But if you can lower the transaction costs, and for specifically more savvy people, right? Like if I wasn't an agent, I've bought and sold personally over 50 properties, right? So it's like I'm used to the process. So I could probably just buy directly via whether it's Redfin, Zillow, you name the website, I could just do it directly, right? And now, how long until people are comfortable with that large of a purchase? TBD on how soon. But if you focus all your time, money, and attention on maxing it out, knowing that it could be gone in 5 years, A, that's going to force me to make more money. But B, I'm structuring my debt level to where I don't want to be straddled with a lot of debt come at the end of the 5 years. So, like, I shouldn't be living off of the money that I'm making on the agent side. All the passive income should be all that I'm living off of. So if that was to go away, then it's not going to impact my lifestyle.
Yeah, that's important. It's important to look a couple steps ahead because it's so easy to just you have the money, it's there, it's everything's trying to take money from you. There's a million things you can spend it on, but having a little bit of foresight of where things might go, because a lot of people, I think the most jobs, I don't know how soon, and I'm not an expert by any means, but it just seems like at the rate this stuff is going, even my job, being a pilot, you
Right.
would never think that someone would be okay with getting in an airplane without a pilot in there, but I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than most people are thinking.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at, is like trying to figure out the best way to create an additional income. And I think it's silly to focus on passive in the beginning because that should be an afterthought before you learn how to actually make money. And kind of what I'm learning, I just talked to this guy named Zach Horth yesterday. Have you heard of Zach? He's from
No,
Indiana, lives in
I think I
Austin.
saw the ad that you were going to talk to him.
Yeah, he's a pretty impressive guy. 29 years old. He's got 700 units. So I don't know. I think that's like 6 or 7 properties, storage units, and then a bunch of single family. And he's got a brokerage and a fix and flip, doing a lot of stuff. Him and a
Mhm.
partner. But kind of one of the takeaways I had from the storage unit stuff that I was asking him about is none of this stuff. It's all just like running a business. Storage is just a box where people put their stuff in it. I would feel like that is as close to a passive as you could get. But then he's telling me about it. And it's like they're looking at the competitors in the area. When are they changing their rates? Do you have the right marketing strategy with where your billboards are on the road? And what's the square foot per capita? And it's like
Mhm.
this is the same thing as starting any other business. So it's almost like you have to pick something and just like plan on being an expert in that. Is that kind of how you feel?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Now, specifically on storage units, it seems like in the last like 10 years since I've been investing, they've always been super sexy. So many people love them, but I'm like, they just don't make sense. Like the long-term viability doesn't make sense because they only work when people buy more than they should, and then they store it, which just blows my mind.
Right.
Because if you have a storage unit, you have no room for it, so you put it in storage and you're not going to use it, but you're paying to hold it. It's like, this makes 0 sense. You bought it on credit, most likely, and you're not using it, and then you're paying to store it. It's like it's like a triple negative almost, right? So, and then you got the mental hang up of that stuff that's there and thinking about it at all times. So, I don't see the long-term viability of it. Especially if our whole world changes and we need to get back to like, you know, being active, producing people in the economy and living off of what we need. I think that industry would take a massive hit, maybe more so than some of the other real estate specific focused investments.
I'm just not sure people have enough personal responsibility or wherewithal to go and get rid of their storage because so many people have storage. Like my grandpa actually has storage. He's had for like 20 years, and it's just like the oldest stuff that you don't want to get rid of, But $200
Right.
a month, just forever, people do it.
Right.
So, but I guess if people got pressed enough, I guess you'd have to evict them or whatever, and then they wouldn't go get their stuff. They'd kick it down the road enough where they would just lose it, and then you have to fill it again. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it, but yeah, like you're saying, as far as implementing it as like a long term strategy, I don't know. I'm not sure. I still don't really know if there's like a best thing. It just seems like all of it's going to be hard. You're going to get your teeth kicked in probably for the first 5 years, and then after you've been through enough and learned enough and gone through all the stuff, you can come out where you're good enough that you have a competitive edge and can be profitable. Like that's kind of what you did, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna have, if you're buying enough, you're gonna tie on to winners and you're gonna tie on to some losers, right? And the goal is like as you're building up, is like how do you avoid from buying the loser ones and buy more of the profitable ones? So, and that's what I've been learning over time and adjusting the way I operate, and it's part of the reason why I'm reshifting the asset structure I have now. So I've been selling the Midwest stuff and buying more local around Seattle. Just for as I look at other friends of mine that are doing, less properties, more stable, more cash flow than what I have with more units. So I'm like, okay, let me right size the portfolio and then let's stabilize it to where I can count on the income versus make money, lose money. I don't want this variability. So because a lot of the Midwest, when you're dealing with these C-class tenants areas where they're paycheck to paycheck, they're damaging the units, there's a lot of turnover. So, and then the buildings are just older in general. That's why they were so much cheaper to start with. So, and they're not going to appreciate as much as what I'm seeing, at least out in Seattle. So that's been what my focus is.
Yeah. So in May, I believe there's going to be a new chairman of the Fed, and people think that interest rates are going to come down. With all your businesses, it seems like that affects it in some capacity. Interest rates drop, people want to buy more real estate, so you can sell more real estate. You can also buy more real estate on the investor side. Do you expect it to be a meaningful amount? And I guess, how are you positioning yourself to take advantage of that if there is, or I guess vice versa? Would you not be doing anything?
So really the last, I'd say 2 years, I've been hyper focused on it. And that's just because if you're in commercial, which I had quite a few commercial, like over 20 commercial loans, they don't typically the terms are 5-year fixed, right? It's one thing I learned is like, you know, keep trying to refi and extend out as long as possible. So,
Mhm.
for example, refied in 19 a bunch of stuff, and then I think somewhere end of 20, maybe early 21, I did basically everything. So, with that said, if it's on a 5-year term, 2025, 2026 is when a lot of that was coming due. So, part of the right sizing of the portfolio was because of the debt structure. Most of that debt I had a 3.5%. 25, it would have been 7.5 DSER.
Mm,
I might be at 6.5, 7% DSER today
mhm.
if I was to keep the property and refinance. And so instead of doing that, I'm trying to take that money and try to do creative deals, whether that's a lease with the option to purchase somebody already had. I can leverage existing debt that's already on the property or subject to, or wraparound mortgage. So that's what I'm trying to do is, because in 2024, I'm staring into 2 years where I'm like, hey, we should have already come down in rates. But I was like, I was doing planning for downside protection, right? So I was like, if I sell these off and reposition it into other stuff where I can get lower rates creatively, at least I can protect myself. If I waited until all those refinance and I kept all the properties, basically you're doubling your mortgage, right? So the cash flow that was there, majority of it was going to dry up. So it's like, let's make sure that we can stay in the game, right? So it's like you want to once you're in the game, you never want to get kicked out. So I was planning for that. Now, as we look forward, I'm in a fairly good spot. I don't really have any short term. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any. There's nothing that's coming due in the next couple years. I think the next closest one is in 2.5 years. So, and that one's at almost market rate. It's at 5.75. So it's not horrible. So, I'm positioned to where if they do come down, boom, massive refis, I'll be able to pull out equity. Because over the last 5 years, I've held them and just been paying down debt, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously the property values have gone up. So, could take quite a bit of money out and be able to go buy more or just restructure your debt in general in terms of getting the right percentage of loan to value or percentage of debt to your total portfolio to optimize it. So I'd probably look at doing that structure, you know, um, as long as possible. My learning out of the last one, because like, man, if I would have known that they're going to continue with all the rates in 22. Me back then, I wasn't smart enough to be like, hey, even though it went from 3.5 to 4, I should have locked everything in for a 30-year fixed, right? Life would have been much easier because then I wouldn't have to worry about anything. That's as we're moving forward. I think they'll drop rates a little bit, but there's no reason as of today until there's like actual massive layoffs. Um, because the inflation effectively is sub 2%. So that's a nothing burger right now. So now it's just about unemployment. If that goes up, then they start dropping it down. Then we should start seeing the economy turn around. Because like, if I remember right, I think 12% of the econ, and I got this from Michael Zuber. I think about 12% of the economy relates to real estate. There's real
Hmm.
estate, there's insurance, there's builders, there's title companies, there's loans, there's all that stuff. When there's more transactions, that's more money that's being produced into the economy. So that's a easy way for them to spur for the GDP back up if it drops.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge lever. It's just a matter of like how much do you do that before you create too much inflation. It just like seems it almost seems like none of it makes sense. Like the amount of debt we have and the amount of cost that it is to service that debt, it's almost like it's all made up. And like at the end of the day, America can't crash. And so it just keeps working somehow because other countries agree that America can't explode. And
Yeah.
so we print more money and it funds the wars and it just keeps rolling. But yeah, I guess
It's
on a
kinda
micro.
like, I was just thinking as you're saying that, is like, you kinda keep lending money to your friend, right? And then you're like, "Oh, he's gonna pay it back, he's gonna pay it back." You guys have that trust there, and then you're like, "Hey, I don't think he's gonna pay it back." And then you then you go over there and you give him the muscle, right? That's probably what's gonna happen. Like, everyone is cordial, like, excluding Russia and Ukraine. So everyone's kinda working together with this understanding, and we're all as long as we all align on the program, everybody's fine. But if somebody starts thinking like, "Hey, this doesn't work for me anymore," and then when that agreement between us ends, then Ray Dalio always talks about these wars that happen over time. That's probably what could happen because then people are like, "Oh, you owe us all this money." The people who bought all the debt from the U.S. and we don't see that we're going to get it back, or what we're getting back is not worth the return that we thought. So it could, if it goes bad, it goes bad really fast. Is probably what happened.
Just yeah, don't worry about buying real estate. Just buy T-bills forever and call it good. That might be passive.
Yeah.
But let's see here. The another thing I heard this from Tony Robbins' new book, relatively new. I forget the name of the book now, but it's kind of like the end of his trilogy. He had the first one, and it was like the basic stop paying all these fees to mutual funds, and the second one was about like all the different ways you can invest and the difference of compounding and all that. And then this next one, it seems more like a high level for people that are almost more like high net worth already. But there's this bill that's coming out that he talks about. It's called the Fair Investment Opportunity for Professional Experts Act. HR 3394. The idea is that like it allows the average guy to become a accredited investor. Like you don't have to have the net worth and the income and all that. You can, and I think they're throwing around options like you're going to take a test or meet some other criteria or something, and that's going to allow you to get on some of these deals that like someone like you could get on because you've done the work and became an investor. What's your opinion on that? Is that a good idea or is that just setting people up to be taken advantage of?
I think it's just for people who don't know, credit investor. I think you have to make 200,000 a year and or have like over $1 million net worth, something like that. So like,
Yeah, outside of your
um,
house or something. I think. Yeah.
which ends up, for a good chunk of the population, that's not possible. So it does open you up to more stuff. But I've seen recently, obviously, a lot of people have been getting burnt that were an accredited investor that they thought they were doing a good deal and the syndication say went bad. Now, really what all that comes down to is the better understanding the economics of whatever the project is. So if they have to take a test to become uncredited, I think that's good and that's going to help. It allows people to do more stuff. But I think the second level, even if you can do it, it comes down to analyzing it. So for me, because I was in finance for 4 years at Amazon, I'm able to look into the numbers and then make more, I would say, an educated guess on how it's going to do relative to the average Joe.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of letting people do their own thing. Now it's the same thing as like as long as you get your license, you can drive a car. I think same with having a firearm, right? Yes, you can do that. It gives everybody the freedom, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. So make sure you're treating it with respect and analyzing these products so you actually make money on the deal.
Okay. So let's say somebody becomes an accredited investor, they take the test. Being an accredited investor yourself, where would you direct people to find like a good operator or like what would be a good litmus test? Are there like the big names you see online? Should you like plug into those or are you thinking more like go to people that are kind of word of mouth, smaller guys that are doing deals you can maybe get access to ones that other people couldn't have?
I think it's very similar to stock trading. Like before you ever trade a stock, and nowadays it's pretty easy. You can go get an account and paper trade.
Mm.
So what I would do is go sign up because like all these people that are syndicators, they have to do a PPM, private placement memorandum, I believe. And then they do a session where they talk about the investment, answer all the questions. Before you ever do one, I would sign up, go to as many of those as possible in whatever niche you're going to go, whether it's storage unit. I've seen a lot in car washes lately for some reason. So whatever your real estate thing or whatever investment it could be, different operators, see how they're doing, understand the investments, and then as much as possible, look at their track record. How did they do? Pre 2022, the track record for everybody was good because like as long as you bought something, you made money. Now 22 to 26, different. There's even some of the people who were considered great operators are now losing money and people, like a lot of money. So, and even giving the properties back. So,
Because the interest rate thing, right? People have notes that are due and they
yeah,
can't refi out of it.
yeah. Interest rates, yes, 100%. But a lot of people had baked in that not just the lower rates, but a higher rent increase. And
Mm.
when they put the money into the unit, they're going to get the higher rent. So if they put the money in and the rents don't change, that's another compounding factor, right? So they have more money out there, not enough coming in. Then it's like, vacancy is another thing that's coming up as well. So, there's a lot of variables that go into it. So you want to know all of them. So when I'm looking at investments, I'm trying to look at what's the downside of it. So like if you start decreasing the ratios in there, could
Mhm.
be interest rate, could be occupancy, could be economic rent increase, it could be the exit cap rate. I'm trying to figure out what's the variable that has the highest impact on the projected return.
Right.
And typically that's like their exit cap rate, right? So like if they lower the exit cap rate, it can really compound what the end value is on the sale or refi that they're projecting. For me, I haven't done any syndications just because like if you just look at it on a 5-year calendar, it's typically, if you flat line is zero, day one it's say negative 100,000, and then it builds up over time, and then you make some large number in 5 years. So then over 5 years, it's like, oh, you made like 14, 18%, whatever the number is. But that assumes that for 5 years they're doing everything right and they hit that number, right?
Yeah.
Now in 2020, they thought they were going to be able to hit that and they didn't hit it. So now it's like, so
Yeah. It's kind of a risky game. When one of the other options in the book, he talked about becoming a GP to some of these investment banks where it's like I forget the mechanics of it, but basically it's like these big hedge funds will start their own firm and they can only put so much of their own money in. And so then they have to like raise money from people that are not, what's the word? Basically, like they become a fractional GP instead of like an LP. But I think there's certain firms that will give you access, but the minimum amount to invest in that is still pretty high. But yeah, that might be a little safer than just like putting your money in with some of these commercial real estate deals. I don't know. Just kind of throwing it out there. Last couple things here. Coaching programs. Seems like there's like a lot of muddy waters with finding a good coaching program. There's a lot of coaches. I know you've done some sort of mentorship. Do you know of like any good ones that you can list off the top of your head or guidance on how to go get educated on a deeper level?
yes, there's multiple ones out there. Some of them I'm friends with, the people that are doing them, and some I've personally participated in. So like I'm a big fan of Thatch Went. It's called Springboard to Wealth.
Okay.
West, pretty much. He's from Seattle, so heavy dominance there in California, but it's really all over the U.S. One that I've seen online, and then I met him in person at some real estate events is Coach Carson, the small and mighty investor. I can't remember the name of his coaching program, but you can see him online. There's Lumberjack Landlord. He focuses on property management. There's Deanne McNeely. He has the Lazy Landlord, his model. So there's a lot that are out there. What I would do, just like we were talking about with the accredited investor, you can see a lot of what these people are doing because they put out a lot of content. If you align with what their content is online, once you get beyond that pay barrier and are in their group, then you're going to have a good idea of what you're going to get. And for a lot of people, I mean, for me, like as I would bring in on people, I'm happy to. You can talk to the other people that I've already worked with, and then get personal experience from them if you want. So vet them out, see what they are online, see how much it costs, and see if they got real people that you can talk to that have actually done well in the program. Then you can get into the program.
Cool. All right. Yeah, good tip there. Last kind of fun question. Would you rather have 3 million today or 50,000 a month for 10 years, and why?
Yeah. 50,000 a month for 10 years. I remember you mentioned that to me yesterday. So I was like, oh, how much is that actually? So it's actually, so 120 months, 50,000, 6 million. So would I like 6 million? So basically 50,000 over 12 or 3 million now. I'm always the take the money now
Hmm.
because I can do stuff with the money today. And quite frankly, even after tax, even if you said it was 50%, so you're at 1.5 million. Now with that 1.5 million, you'd be able to, if you kept your costs low, you could easily just retire off of the 1.5 million on pretty conservative type numbers, right? So even at 5%, what is that, 75,000, something like that. So to me, I'd take the money now because you can control it and invest it the way you want. 50,000 a month sounds like a lot, but then when you think about with our depreciation of the dollar, that 50,000 you get in year 10, it might be equivalent to like 40,000 of today's dollars, right? Because you get that time value of money working against you in that scenario.
Yeah.
So I'm always a fan, even on the lotto stuff, right? The people that won the $1 billion or whatever it was the last time, I would take the money today versus the money over time. Now, for people who aren't able to effectively manage the money, it's like a way to protect yourself. It's a forced savings, yeah, because you're going to get the money, and it's a massive amount. So you could easily live off of that, force you to save it, but it's not going to get you into back to yours the 50,000 versus the 1.15 because at the 1.5 you can start getting into a lot of options that can quickly turn into cash flow for you versus the 50,000 a month. You're going to have to wait a while to let it build up to be able to find something.
Yeah. I wonder what it'd probably just be a math equation, but I wonder what the number would be with how little to how much. Like if it's going to be, 100K a month versus 2.5, or like when that would switch over for you. But that'd probably just be a numbers thing. You have to do the math.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to discount the dollars to today. So take all their future earnings,
Yeah.
discount it back to today. That's easy. What doesn't factor in there is the optionality of what you can do with the money today versus tomorrow.
Mhm.
So let's just say like an amazing project came up and it was $1 million today. You could do that versus you'd have to wait an entire, a year plus because you're going to live off the 50,000 per month, right? So you'd
Yeah.
have to wait like 2 years, in order to do that investment. So there is optionality to having the money today.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Yeah, it was great chatting with you again. So we'll do the same time next week and see what's going on in the world and get to the bottom of it.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, hopefully we can crowdsource some questions from your community and see if there's some like top three, top five things we can review and
Yeah.
go from there.
That's a good idea. Yeah, there's like 66 people in there now, but it's hard to
Mhm.
get people to get active in there, man. Like I don't know. It's like I'm trying, man, but enough interviews and enough people in there, I'm sure it'll start to get some momentum. So, working on it.
I mean, I can't believe because I was looking at your YouTube and what you're doing in Skool, the amount of volume of content and time and effort that what people don't see, it's massive. And you're like on that cusp. You just need a couple like things to go viral. And then I think you could instantly kind of blow up because you're already doing the work. The foundation is there. You're set up to take off.
Yeah. Well, the last few months I've really kind of revamped it and tried to get the camera quality and everything a little better. So just kind of 1% a day, chipping away at it. And yeah, if not, I still I honestly, I love this talking about finance and real estate and stuff. So yeah, it's a win-win. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how we get better. We have these conversations. We learn from each other. Like I was just on with right before this with Cody Davis, a young guy that has tons of properties. I get to learn from him. Then I can share that with you and vice versa. So
He's actually coming on the podcast on the 22nd or 26th.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited for that one. But yeah, all right, man, I'll let you get to it. It's good chatting with you. I'll talk to you next
There you
week.
go. See ya.
That's it.